The weather's been really bad lately, and also I haven't had much of a chance to get out and take actual photographs, so I thought I'd try something different. I thought I'd set up a sort of a studio thing and try some macro photography with some collectible figurines. They're not toys. I insist they're not toys. I tell my family, these are not toys. After a certain age, they're figurines and collectible. So I wanted to test out macro photography in sort of a studio situation, see if I liked it, see what I encountered, see if there are any problems I run into, and mostly if I like it. One thing I noticed is that you need a pretty large room to be able to set things up and move things around and navigate through things. Now, if one's wife doesn't like clutter in a room for any extended amount of time, I don't recommend this. I also discovered that there are many things that can be a distraction, and among those are pet pests. And if you have an animal and they're curious and they like to get around stuff and chew on things they're not supposed to, this is probably not the ideal thing for you to take on. One thing I realized is that although I'm no Indiana Jones, I do find treasure hunting fulfilling. And part of the experience of going out and finding shots is just that each photo is kind of like a little treasure, a little time capsule. And with the studio setup, you're kind of just making your own thing, and it doesn't have that sort of moment in time feel. And so for me, that was just kind of a negative to this. There was a big challenge with this, with the lighting in my house, trying to find the right lighting with the right angles so you didn't cast unwanted shadows. And so it was kind of difficult to find. It took me a couple different tries and places to find out where the best lighting was. One difference that I found that I dislike about the studio setup is that it takes a long time to set up, and it's mostly just for one or two shots. So unless you can really change out things really quickly, it's sort of time consuming, and that's time wasted for me when, although I would be walking outside or going somewhere, it's a little more rewarding to be searching and looking for those treasures. Another thing I realized that I don't like is the teardown time, that instead of like a photograph outside where you can just walk away, never to have to deal with the place again. Another negative for me is I like to be outside, but I don't get out as much as I'd like to, or take the time to. Maybe that's really the thing. But so with going outside, I get a lot more exercise and enjoyment from the outdoors. What I didn't realize when I started this full scene is that it actually is a better idea to isolate and just take photos of one or two figurines and not a whole scene. It seems to have more of a dramatic effect when you can isolate and narrow it down even more, simplify your subject, and get in closer even. So that was a difference that I found. Since this is an experiment and I don't live by the ocean or a lake, I had to find a background image. I didn't have one already just on hand from my own, and so I had to find one to put back there. So that's really limiting as far as you would really need to attribute another photographer in that, and there's all sorts of things that make it not a great idea, and I don't want to sell somebody else's photograph, and so that's just kind of weird. You can buy something from stock art places like Shutterstock, but that doesn't really suit what this is all about. This is just an experiment, so I just wanted to throw something back there. Originally, I was going to photograph it on a green screen and delete the background, which would have been a better idea. It would have been a lot easier. Instead, I thought I was going to make clouds and water from just a blue sheet in the background that you'll see or have seen, and it turns out I didn't want to do that after all, so that was sort of a drawback. It made things take longer, like deleting the background, and so if you know you're going to put a background behind it, I would recommend actually using a sort of green screen effect, and it would be a lot better. Also, one thing that I didn't know, and I don't know the rules about, of course there are copyright rules on every single thing in the world now, so I wonder what it would take for copyright licensing to actually present this figure that's copyrighted, G.I. Joe, and also maybe any images and backgrounds that people would use. Cartoons, I wonder when people do and sell things of famous people or cartoons, what actually could happen if those corporations really crack down on stuff. So in comments below, let me know what you think about that sort of thing. I actually don't like using Photoshop a lot, but for this project I really had to, and this shows where I'm just starting to delete the background. There's a kind of a controversy. I don't know how much Photoshop is good for a photo and how much should it be the natural scene based on what your camera can do. I know cameras can't catch everything, but I think there's got to be a fine balance between the right amount of Photoshop to enhance the photo to what you see or had seen versus altering it so much that it's just a creation of art, I would say, still on its own, but maybe not reflective of the real photograph. Comment below your thoughts on this sort of thing. And so here's the final image, and it turned out pretty decent. I'm not unhappy with it, but for the time it took and the different things to be able to put it together, I think I'd rather just go outside and shoot that way, and be more fun, get a lot of different variety of shots, and really shoot more things that I like. And but this was a good experience and a good thing to go through to kind of devise what I need to put together for a little studio setup. And I hope that gave you some ideas anyway. And it was interesting to me to learn all the different things involved in it. Check out the 3 previous videos on my YouTube channel, and they have a little more fun content, and check those out.
Billy, are you helping?
Has photographs and paintings on that I've done. And this is Bentley, and apparently he wants to get in on the business too.